Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghosts and Spirits of the Week video. I thought I would mix this one in while I'm working on your cryptids and monsters suggestions. The reason why I did this one here was because this particular suggestion was actually mixed in within the cryptids and monsters suggestion video, but looking at it, I realized that it definitely falls more under the Ghosts and Spirits side, and when I was reading the information, it just seemed so good that I felt that I should share it here right now as opposed to waiting, let's say, for the next Ghosts and Spirits go around when it comes to the series. After you hear all this information too, you'll see why I find it so interesting. It has to do with the world of spirits, particularly in the Native American side, in this case the Navajo Native Americans. And once I share all this info, it'll make you realize like how they interpret their beliefs, in this case involving ghosts and spirits, and how in this particular situation a lot of this info, when you see it out there in the world, you'll harken back to it afterward. You'll know what I mean here in a couple of minutes. But it has to do with this. You're looking at least a representation of it now. It's known as the Chindi. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the great info tied to this Native American spirit. So what is the Chindi? Well, it's a particular spirit that's known in the world, the Navajo Native Americans, and in essence, it's their version of an evil spirit. Apparently, everyone there has such a spirit within them. It just happens to leave or become, in essence, its own whenever a person dies. So basically, all the bad stuff that you have within you, because if you, particularly like if you go to the Asian cultures, they also believe that everyone has good and evil within them. Same concept here. All the evil within you will then leave your body, and then it'll take the form of this evil spirit known as a Chindi. As far as its physical characteristics, it's pretty much out there when it comes to the many interpretations. It can basically take the form of anything because it is a shape shifter. In fact, it can take the form, in most cases, of animals. So, for example, if you see a coyote standing on its hind legs, in particular, obviously, standing on both legs, then that's a Chindi. It's basically morphed into this thing. Also, if you see an animal, but if you look at it, it has these dead eyes, is the best way to describe it. Like something is staring back at you, but you can't quite tell that that something is truly alive. But there they are, still standing or basically right in front of you, then that is a Chindi. Another one is a telltale sign is if you run into an animal, let's say out there, you're driving around, it happens to be night, you have your car headlights on, and you see the usual reflections within animal eyes, but you come across one where nothing bounces back, there's no reflection at all within those eyes, then you are looking at a Chindi that again has taken the form of an animal. Very interesting stuff. Otherwise, it's most likely known in a spirit form. I don't know if it's exactly like you can see it, kind of like a shadow person, or more on the lines of a traditional ghost like you would picture in the movies. Nothing like that. But there's one other thing that makes it very interesting, the way it stands out as a physical characteristic. Dust devils. You and I have seen them out there in this world. In fact, when I was traveling one time towards the west, I saw some dust devils out there that were just moseying around and then dying off afterward. But yes, if you see a dust devil, there's a good chance, based on the way it's blowing, that this is a Chindi. Apparently, if they're turning regularly, in this case clockwise, then everything is good. It's basically a regular dust devil. It's nothing else to pay attention to, truly. But if you see one turning counterclockwise, then that dust devil is actually possessed by a Chindi, and so it's considered a bad dust devil. This may be something that'll essentially try to create havoc, create damage, especially if, let's say, it starts getting closer to your car or wherever your location is. But yes, at least those are all the physical characteristics of the Chindi. Remember I was mentioning earlier how you see some things out there in the wilderness whenever you're traveling around. Keep in mind all of that if you ever happen to go towards particular other areas that are known to have, in this case, land from the Navajo Indians, and that's where you'll have it here. Now, as far as like where more of the origin is tied to the Chindi, again, I was mentioning earlier that everyone has this evil spirit within them according to their belief, and the way that they truly make certain that this Chindi spirit basically goes out there and leaves as peacefully as can be has to do with the way the person dies. This is their belief. They believe that whenever someone dies, this Chindi will then linger around the dead person themselves. Like it'll probably try to stay as long as it can, not trying to go to wherever the other side is. Not only that, but it'll try to actually stay with the corpse, but also the possessions that are tied to those corpses. So if you had somebody that died, and let's say near them they had a favorite set of dishes, or they had a favorite set of silverware, clothing, artifacts, anything that they might have collected, then this Chindi, if it finds those, it'll linger with them too. This reminded me of, in a weird way, the fourth Silent Hill game, The Room, how there was a room that you would basically go to after certain levels, and then if you went there, you would find certain portions of the room to be haunted. Like they would have these artifacts, they would have these materials that the closer you got to them, you would realize they would be possessed, and then they would try to slowly create damage to you. That's what I was reminded of when I was reading this information about the Chindi. Same thing here. If you went to a home that believed to have a Chindi somehow attached to it, then it would slowly try to harm you once you got close to those possessions that it was tied to. So because of this entire belief system that the Navajo Indians had, what they would do is once somebody was, let's say, getting close to death, instead of them dying within the home, they would actually take this person outside and have them die out there. It seems a little bit cruel, but there's the belief that when this happens, then this Chindi will then not be able to linger towards anything, and then it'll just depart and go towards the other side. So the person dying is supposed to realize this, and then the people that brought that person out there to die also are supposed to realize it. It's all to make certain that that there's no harm that falls under any innocent people. And then if you do happen to, let's say, come across something, like let's say they forgot to take the person out before they died, or this person died on their own, let's say within their own home, nobody was around them, they just happened to die, and then the Chindi lingers there, you'll know that a Chindi is within your presence, because you're supposed to have this quote-unquote ghost sickness around you. It's supposed to be like this heavy presence. It's something where you just start feeling ill. This is it. This is the Chindi itself trying to absolutely cause you harm. You can't see it, you can't hear it, you can't feel it, but you definitely start having something bad happening towards you afterward. That heavy like sinking sickness, essentially. And when that happens, then that's the Chindi causing this here damage. So pretty interesting stuff when I was reading this info, because a lot of it would seem like those of you that are fans of my videos know I love the notion where something is there but it's not there at the same time. Like you're looking at an area and something is looking back at you, but you can't see, hear, feel nothing in terms of whatever this thing is. Yet again, the Chindi falls within that same world. The best way to essentially get rid of this Chindi, if it still is possessing, let's say, a home, or in particular those artifacts I was mentioning earlier, is basically they burn the whole house itself. They leave it abandoned, so that way everyone knows, don't ever go to that home. It's going to be one of those homes that becomes yet another, I guess, closest thing to a haunted house. The ones that you and I know the legends of in your areas, know that there's these homes that have been long abandoned that people say are haunted. Same thing here, in this case in the world of the Navajo. Or they actually just burn it to the ground, and then that's supposed to make this Chindi then disperse and go elsewhere, because now it has nothing else to truly attach itself to. One last interesting thing associated with the Chindi, it can be used as a weapon. Apparently in the world of Navajo, those witches, or those that practice the beliefs, in this case of spiritual stuff, they can take pieces of the corpse that they know have a Chindi lingering tied to it, and then they make it into some kind of powder. And the whole thing is this: they then take that powder and sprinkle it on someone's food or someone's drink, whoever their target is. And once that happens, then the Chindi inadvertently attaches itself to that person, and then they start attacking that person thereafter. So in the world of Navajo, if you suddenly start feeling like, let's say, a sense of dread, a sense of sickness, everything else normally would be fine, but then you have this happening, then the notion goes that you have a Chindi that is somehow attached to you, like somebody basically spiked your food, and it's the closest thing in terms of that summary. So there are ways to get around it, though, as far as attacking these Chindis back. Number one, you can say a prayer. If you say prayers, then these Chindis are supposed to then be repelled by them. Number two, you can use a medicine man. A medicine man will create something, what's called a medicine circle, and then start singing and start offering prayers, so that way the Chindi will then remove itself afterward. And then number three, it's about the person itself. So if that person, let's say, is attacked by a Chindi, whether they run into a home that houses the Chindi, or whether they had their food spiked by, in this case, the Chindi itself, what happens then is, if that person was truly, truly good, like they were someone that had a good heart, they respected everyone, all creatures, they respected everyone in their community, they were just a good person overall, then this negative energy has nothing to attach itself to. The Chindi will then realize that it cannot do anything towards this good person, so it bounces off and then it returns to the person that set itself to attack. So it's a weird kind of, let's say, instant karma type justice when it comes to the world of Chindis. But that's pretty much it. That's all the information associated with this evil spirit, this one that again is in the belief of the Native Americans, especially the Navajo Native Americans. If anyone has any more info, anything else I might have listed, please, forgot to list, please post those comments. Maybe anybody from that world specifically, that culture, anybody that happens to have friends, family members that knows more info, maybe even more any real world examples, something I might have missed there, locations perhaps that house a Chindi, then that would be really, really good to hear. So, but yes, wasn't this information all very interesting? The notion that, again, this thing is basically within everyone. It just happens to be released whenever someone dies, and the way that that person dies, those last moments, can truly impact things thereafter, especially the way it can attach itself to the corpse or to the possessions themselves. So, alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.